Hello, beautiful, delightful Virgo Sun or sixth house Sun. Let's talk about you and what it means for you to be in joy. Well, you've got something happening here because you've got your previous house, previous sign as Leo, fifth house. What does it mean? Well, that is the sign that we're now exposing. This is the energy that we're now searching for or looking towards. This is the energy of joy and happiness. And those things that bring you enjoyment. And as that being your unconscious, it's kind of silent or muted and mutable by you as well, as you worried as a way of life a lot of the time, and you're concerned as a way of being, becoming your joy, becoming your peace through festering, through knowledge of things that are not right, through carrying out tasks, through worry. And sometimes that is very confusing and conflicting for us to see, because everybody should relax, everybody should let go, and we know that. We know that everybody deserves a holiday and a time out once in a while, just to completely not worry about a thing. And that is something that Virgos find really hard or extremely difficult to comply with, because there is something in the mechanism of Virgo that is always worried and always hungry for change, but in a very small level. There needs to be some kind of perseverance towards contracts and towards getting things right and reevaluating things in a way, reevaluating things and recreating realities in order to form a better version of itself, a better version of itself. Why? Because Virgos often don't look for perfection in themselves. That's likely to be something that is only temporary or shallow. Like, say, they might be very perplexed about their view on life or anything like that, but inside they know they're good. Like, they know they're really good people inside. Virgos do, usually, but most of the time. But outside, they often shift things. They often create change because they don't really like what they see. A Virgo's job is never done. They will kind of like succumb to a very interesting stance in their life where they're always looking for truth. They're always looking for, why is that not done yet? Why is that not perfect? And how come these people are not clear? Why is this not clear? Why is this water not drinkable? Why are these people not awake yet? And why is the situation not conforming to my experience of truth and my experience to love? And although it is a very complicated sign in some ways, it's very simple to me, I feel, because the Leo energy is in the underground, the unconscious, the 12th house, you know, for the Sun and Virgo, or I guess the 5th house is before the 6th. So Leo comes before Virgo, so that's your unconscious. And that's your knowing what's right and knowing how to do things for you. But then, because it's unconscious, then the conscious part, Virgo, becomes really small. It becomes really separated from other people. It becomes really diminished by human beings. Sometimes it becomes something that is portrayed as simple or a little bit unique, but also very dull in comparison to other things. And it's a very hard lifetime sometimes, knowing that inside, in your unconscious, underneath it all, you're huge, you're giant, you're like a lion. But inside is where nobody ever looks with your star sign. Nobody ever looks, because everybody's looking to the outside of you. Everybody's looking to a degree of shift that you can offer through your work. People are looking at what you do. People are wondering how you did it, and people know. And without that, I feel you wouldn't be you. But at the same time, I feel also that with your information gathering techniques and your way of living this experience, you're often very perplexed with truth and very interested in the right way of doing, because your next sign above you is Libra. So you're quite perplexed with what Libra's got that I don't, kind of thing. And that is something that you sort of find as a really weird, joyful search, getting things right, getting things clean, getting things correct, getting things that were vulnerable once into a non-vulnerable place, leaving behind things that are dirty and unclean after experiencing them, in order to create clarity and vulnerability towards more joy, rather than vulnerability towards more dark. But it's all very vulnerable for Virgo indeed, because this cleansing search for truth and cleansing feeling of life incomplete unless it's perfect is very hard to fathom. very hard. So always worries, there's always things to do, there's always work to be done. But because of how Virgo is placed on this planet and what this planet requires from us as a species, Virgo has done very well for itself as a sign, because overall, through, you know, the vortex of the human experiences, Virgos now have really become, especially after the Jupiter's passing through the sign, very observant and very confident with what they are in some small or large way. And that means that Virgo is becoming somebody who's not so particular with the details as much as they used to be, because they're wondering about the greater detail of life, and that's the bigger picture of them all. But however you put it, even though perhaps most of you may have found joy to be something very simple and very easily obtained in the last cycle of Jupiter, I have a very good hunch that it will not be forever. It will continue to be a buzzing sensation with you. I feel the energy of creating something perfect, or connecting people to something cleaner than themselves, or to redefine people's ideas, or to redefine the collective issues, and to redefine other people's vulgarities. And that's something very simple for me, as I'm a Libra Sun. But perhaps that is very hard for some of you, facing with imperfection and the annoyance that imperfection can bring. But then what you give to us is very simple. You basically clear cut us into the new, brand new way of being that we will or not accept, but suspect as something pretty damn good. So anything that you've given us so far has been very good, and we really preach through you, we reach through you, we really try and understand ourselves better through you and people like you, and that general dominance of a human being over reality, where they can sort it out and place things exactly perfectly where they need to be. But how much happiness can that really provide? Well, actually a lot. And though people don't understand, or they're nervous about it, but there's, you know, 2 signs in the zodiac, and they're both earth signs, and they're very small. The other sign apart from you is Capricorn, but Capricorn is meant to shift mountains, and that's a very interesting sign as well, because you guys are both earth signs, and you kind of know that the detail is in the devil, or the devil's in the detail, but whatever you do, you know how to do it right, and you know how to do it straight by concentrating on the small things in order to build them up over time, and to reach for the correct conclusions wherever you go, through meticulous activity and through mind that is small occasionally, in order to create very huge changes and very giant shifts. So how about that, Virgo? You don't really need to find that which other people are looking for, and that can be very hard, because everything around you is bombardment. You know, we don't just float around you, we tackle you with our bad teeth and our bad breath and our inability to figure things out for ourselves, and our incompetence and our selfishness and laziness. We basically tackle you, and our bad manners. Excuse me as I sip this cup of tea. I got my pinky out. But yeah, Virgo, it's very hard for you, but the main thing for you is to do that thing that you do without looking at us to comply with it, because we don't really get it yet. You do, you get that. You get that thing that you're doing, you understand why and how and what and for why, but we don't understand. And sometimes when a Virgo can get very judgmental, it can bring them peace. It can bring them a strange degree of peace, and that's something that you must forgive yourself in order to move on to bigger joys, because sometimes Virgo can have an addictive personality. Sometimes Virgo can have a very particular taste in men or women or people or experiences or any kind of toxic activity or any kind of toxic thoughts, like, oh yuck, look at those people, you know, oh yuck, look at that society, look at that social order, or like, look at how people do this and that. And it's often towards people, because people is where you're going as Libra, is the ascendant, the adjacent sign after Virgo. So the 7th house is the adjacent house after the 6th. And that's where you're committing to. Perhaps that's why people of your group, people with a Sun and a 6th house and Sun and Virgo, tend to look towards the others, tend to look towards other people in order to judge them at first, if they're not developed in consciousness. But unfortunately, when we judge people, we become like them, or we start to become more positive about ourselves in a bad way. Like we compare ourselves and go, well, in comparison to her, I'm better. But then in comparison to him, I'm not so good. Or something like that. Like we sort of create a condition where conditions rule us, and that is why Virgo cannot ever quite tame their temper sometimes on the inside, even though on the outside everything seems very small and meek and kind. And often people can see that in you, and they will not fight you or be far from you, but they're far from you in here and in there, and it's really hard. Because people pleasing is something that Virgo does a lot, but they never really understand why people are not pleased. And that's because we can tell that you are not dominating us as you are sort of basically politely trying to make us do things. But you're not dominating us because we can feel that you are yet incomplete within yourself, because a Virgo will not stop judging until Virgo feels, all is complete, I am complete, everything is complete. And when you feel everything's complete and everything's forgotten, everything's in order, that's when we trust you, and that's when we judge you no more. Thank you. Yeah. We sort of judge you no more after we can see a Virgo with a job well done. So what to do? Basically, when you're in a cycle of the to-do list, which is very likely for most of us to see you do, maybe it's not even a big deal to you, but with the way that you go through processes, we can see that you do a lot more and a lot more constantly than other people. Perhaps to you, you feel lazy if you don't do a certain type of routine in the morning, but for us it feels a little bit far-fetched and a bit too much. It's like a murder of time. But we say prefer to go out and have a nice meal and relax and, you know, sit under the sun and do nothing all day, where you feel perhaps that kind of lifestyle is horrible. The nervous structure of your mind kind of takes over, then you start judging people or judging yourself or committing to different types of schemes or what to do next or where do I fit in and things like that. So what to do? Well, basically for the Virgo mind, it's really imperative to be stuffed with meaning. What do I mean? Okay, so for example, you've done the job, you know, you carried out the assignment, you need to celebrate and you need to come to a certain stuffing of self with stuff. This sounds really weird, but the more you feel empty, like you got nothing to do, the more kind of like lazy your conscience becomes, and like sometimes the more you do, the less you really understand. So for example, you've done a job well done and you need to get stuffed. So how? Well, like buy yourself that present and just look at it for ages and really feel fulfilled with that. And like, it's like, I'm fulfilled with that, I'm fulfilled with that. For example, it could be that amazing car, or it could be that amazing gift, but you have to celebrate, but not celebrate out loud when you finish a task, but give yourself something to do completely different but similar to other things. There needs to be some kind of a void filler, like some kind of a space filler. If you can't sit still and not do. If you can sit still and not do, congratulations, you got there already. But if you can't just stop and still your mind, really good knitting, crafting, weaving, drawing, any kind of artistic creative activity that's not too far out there. Because when you are doing something too far out, it becomes like a job or like a calling, and like as soon as it's like a huge freaking calling, you lose a lot of power and a lot of steam, because your unconscious becomes the ruler of you in a way. So with this kind of placement, it's really important to starve out your nervous system by doing something meticulous. So like say you're sewing or you're knitting or you're looking at your numbers, you know, on your phone, and you're dialing something, and then you're calling somebody and you're talking to them, hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, I'm doing nothing, and talking about nothing, not talking about, well, talking about business, but like say, meticulously so, something that's quite boring to us, that would actually be really calming for you. But eventually, when you don't need that emotional crutch, you can just be free to just be in the sun or be in a pool or be somewhere other than, you know, striving towards something or task making and task completing. But yes, overall, Virgos tend to get sad when they don't feel accepted by other people. And the fact is, people don't often accept Virgos because we're 6th house suns. because we can't handle this amount of intensity when a person's got to go and do and think and la 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 la, and has so much action to take in this life. We actually like don't feel comfortable with that sometimes, and that makes you feel really annoyed because come on, I do it for you, I do it for you, and then we're still kind of like, nah, you don't actually, I'm sorry, but I don't get it. And that can feel really ungrateful as an environment, like I'm trying so hard for these people and they don't freaking get it. And it can be very annoying, and it can actually bring a lot of Virgos to tears, just knowing that they've had work, you know, after they've struggled for say 300 years to try and like put this book together or try to put this experience together for somebody else. They realize that they've really overstepped a lot of themselves, and they become very meek in their energy, and that's why people don't really feel drawn towards Virgos sometimes, because they're overworked and they're overtasked. So when you are like that and you feel sad, and why does nobody understand, why does nobody want to connect on my level, why does nobody want to experience my type of consciousness, my type of reality, it's really interesting, because it's basically your Leo that comes out of you, your inner Leo, your 12th house as a sun, or 5th house as a 6th house native. Your Leo comes out and it basically roars. Why does nobody want to do things my way? Because it's like the undershade of Virgo. So you know how people say every cloud's got a silver lining? Well, it's like every fluffy, beautiful, delightful Virgo's got a dark side, and that dark side can be very selfish and very stereotypically possessive of things, and possessive of culture, possessive of political views, possessive of anything. And that can be something that is very regarded like highly amongst certain people that look for control. But with us, most of us people on Earth, that kind of frequency is very scary and very mindy for us, and then we just disconnect. And then how do you go forward into the Libra energy without that? Well, you can't. So you have to start somewhere and identify things as mine to a point where you are freaky, because there's a lot of selflessness in Virgo, but there is an undercurrent of selfishness that's a lot stronger than you may realize. So sometimes when you do things for people, and you do things for people a lot, just realize the undercurrent of selfishness and the current of selflessness involved, and make the balance between the two, because it's what Libra is about. That's where you're going, my friend. So for example, I've done all my homework, I've completed all the chores, I've done everything, I've given my boyfriend a back rub, I've painted my toes, and I'm now like completing some kind of an idea for a seminar. Yeah? And then you kind of go, that's a selfless act. And then you go, actually, that's a really selfish act. I've done everything. I wanted to good, like, well done, get the good well done from myself. I wanted to please my boyfriend so he thinks I still love him. And, you know, I'm sort of completing this because now I feel mighty enough to do something for other people so they may notice me. And then you may wonder about that for a while, and then you can give it a different shade, and you're like, I'm so loving and gracious, and I've done all these things because I really care, and I love my boyfriend, I hope he connects with me, and I've done this seminar because I just really couldn't help myself, because I really enjoy what I do. You know, I really enjoy what I do. So you can actually like twist it around any way you want, and Virgos are really good at twisting things around in multiple ways, because they're the Jekyll and Hyde of the zodiac. Although Virgo is not two-faced like Gemini, we think Virgo is incredibly two-faced, because they have to be in the dark and the light in order to understand themselves. And that means that in time your joy comes out of that too, but eventually you'll need to be just the balance of the two, without having to have an overpowering dark side and a very pleasant light side to you as well. So anyway, Virgo, in terms of your life and your projects, thank you for keeping going, and thank you for giving us everything, and thank you for sometimes, you know, allowing yourself to have an open mind, and through that open mind and the open perspective of everything is both light and dark, connecting to us in both of your ways, in both the light and the dark way, and allowing all right and wrong to be one. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and hope you enjoyed the seminar. If you do like a reading, I've got a link below, and I've also got portraits and music and other crazy things I do. Thank you very much for connecting, and stay in touch.